And now, MaineWebNews.
The man who has stood up for the people versus the banking interests more than any other person in Congress for the last 30 years, Ron Paul, is set to become the chairman of the House Subcommittee on Monetary Policy. Now we're finding out that the new Speaker of the House, fellow Republican John Boehner, is trying to block this from happening, and a lot of Republicans feel blindsided they didn't see this coming, but you should have.
We're going to watch a video of John Boehner, but first give me 30 seconds to describe the setting. In 1999, John Boehner was a vocal supporter of a bill called the Financial Modernization Act. It seems that by 1999, expecting banks to act responsible and honest was just not modern enough. This bill also repealed the Glass-Steagall Act, which was in place to keep commercial banks separate from investment banks. Well, 9 years later, this had led to such a glut of greed, deception, and corruption in the financial system that Congress was told by Wall Street they needed a $700 billion bailout from taxpayers or the whole system would collapse. The Senate caved to the bankers' demands quickly, but the majority of the representatives in the House were siding with the Americans who were screaming, "No, don't do this." That's when none other than John Boehner came to the House floor and showed his hand. He was standing with the banks.
Just think about what happens if we don't pass this bill. Think about what happens to your friends, your neighbors,
and John's donors? That's right, the Federal Reserve was forced to let the cat out of the bag last week and tell us where the money went. Here are some of the biggest beneficiaries of the $700 billion Wall Street bailout, along with how much money they have kicked back to John Boehner. Goldman Sachs, $12,000. Bank of America, $11,000. Citigroup, $10,000. American Bankers Association, $10,000. Verizon, $10,000. General Electric, $10,000. And last but not least, John Boehner got $10,000 from Credit Suisse, who were a primary beneficiary of the repeal of Glass-Steagall. In fact, the very next year, Credit Suisse developed the now notorious financial instrument known as a mortgage-backed collateralized debt obligation, which many say caused the housing collapse of '08. Before that, Credit Suisse was involved with Enron. Now back to the video.
I didn't come here to do this. I didn't come here to vote for bills like this. But let me tell you this. I believe Congress has to act. And that means each and every one of us have to act. These are the votes that separate the men from the boys and the girls from the women.
John Boehner actually suggested that if you oppose giving away America's wealth to foreign banks, then you aren't a man. Real men like John Boehner don't stand up to the banks. No, real men cave in like ninnies and give the bankers what they want. Let's continue.
These are the votes. These are the votes that your constituents sent you here to decide on their behalf.
So never mind that 90% of Americans were against this bill, because John Boehner believes that people are elected to Congress so they can decide things on our behalf.
I believe what's in the best interest of our country, as I stand here today, is to vote for this bill.
Was it really in our country's best interest to give America's wealth away to foreign banks?
So I ask all of you, both sides of the aisle, what's in the best interest of our country? Not what's in the best interest of our party, not what's in the best interest of our own re-election. What's in the best interest of our country? Vote yes.
This video is painful to watch, so why do I drag this up? Because it shows a clear distinction between John Boehner working for the banks and Ron Paul working for the people.
Madam Speaker, I rise in strong opposition to this bill. This is only going to make the problem that much worse. The problem came about because we spent too much, we borrowed too much, and we printed too much money, we inflated too much, and we overregulated. And this is all that this bill is about, is more of the same. So you can't solve the problem. We're looking at a symptom. We're looking at the collapsing of a market that was unstable. It was unstable because of the way it came about. It came about because of a monopoly control of money and credit by the Federal Reserve System, and that is a natural consequence of what happens when a Federal Reserve System creates too much credit. Now, there have been a fair number of free market economists around, predicted this would happen, and yet, do we look to them for advice? No, we totally exclude them. We don't listen to them. We don't look at them. We look to the people who created the problem and then perpetuate the problem. The most serious mistake that could be made here today is to blame free market capitalism for this problem. This has nothing to do with free market capitalism. This has to do with a managed economy, an inflationary system, corporatism, a special interest system. It has nothing to do with the failure of free markets and capitalism. Yet we're resorting now, once again, to promoting more and more government. Long term, this is disastrous because everything we're doing here, everything we've done for 6 months, we've already pumped in $700 billion. Here's another $700 billion. This is going to destroy the dollar. That's what you should be concerned about. Yeah, Wall Street's in trouble. There's a lot of problems. And if we don't vote for this, there's going to be problems. But believe me, if you destroy the dollar, you're going to destroy a worldwide economy, and that's what we're on the verge of doing. And it is inevitable, if we continue this, that's what's going to happen. It's going to be a lot more serious than what we're dealing with today. We need to get our house in order. We need more oversight. That is for certainty. But we need oversight of the Federal Reserve System, the Exchange Stabilization Fund, the President's Working Group on Financial Markets. Find out what they're doing. How much have I been meddling in the market? But what we're doing today is going to make things much worse.
Things have gotten worse, and perhaps the best hope for this new Congress is for Ron Paul to chair the House Subcommittee on Monetary Policy and use a doctor's approach to the problem by attacking the root of it. People are contacting John Boehner by phone, fax, and email to let him know that they expect our new Speaker of the House to serve the American people, not foreign banks. And to let him know that they're expecting Ron Paul to be appointed chairman of the House Subcommittee on Monetary Policy.
And now, MaineWeb News.